"No man is strong enough for me," said the Zulu woman, until she met the lumberjack. The saw bit and screamed. Then the spruce gave way wrong. A white crack ran up the trunk like lightning. The tree twisted in its own fall. Men shouted, boots skated on packed snow, and the air filled with splinters and sap. She stood too close, not from ignorance, from pride. The Zulu woman held her ground at the edge of the skid road, a wool shawl pulled tight over her shoulders, eyes fixed on the men as if she had paid for the right to watch them work. The fallen tree swung toward her, slow as a door closing. "Move!" Someone roared. She did not flinch. A shadow cut across the snow. A man struck her from the side, hard as a tackle, and they hit the ground together. The spruce slammed down where she had been standing. The shock ran through the earth and up their bones. Needles rained. Snow burst from branches in a pale storm. For a moment there was only breath, and the smell of fresh split wood. The man lay half over her, elbow dug into the snow. His beard was iced at the tips. His flannel shirt was dark with sweat beneath the frost. He stared at the crushed line of snow where her boots had been. Then he looked at her. She was already pushing up. Jaw set, eyes bright with anger more than fear. "Get off," she said. Voice clipped, strange in its vowels to these woods. He rolled aside and rose in one motion, as if the cold itself pushed him upright. He offered no hand. He did not need to. She stood alone, brushing snow from her shawl like it insulted her. Men gathered, half laughing with relief, half sworn at the near miss. "You trying to get killed, girl?" A teamster barked. Her gaze cut toward him. "I do not belong to you," she said. "Do not call me that." The teamster's smile slid away. The bearded man spoke then, low. "You don't stand near a leaning tree." "Not here." She held his eyes like a blade against stone. "And you throw your body at mine as if I am a sack." "I threw my body where it needed to go," he said. Behind him, the foreman spat round and looked away, as if he had seen enough of women and trouble in one breath. "Back to it," he muttered. "We got daylight." The men drifted off. The saw was lifted again. The horses shifted in their traces. Steaming. She remained where the spruce had fallen, staring at the fresh stump as if it had betrayed her. The man turned to go. Her voice followed him. "You did not ask my name." He paused. "Didn't seem like you were offering." "I am Namusa," she said. He looked back, his eyes the color of river stones under ice. "Elias Ward," he answered. "And you're lucky. I'm faster than pride." Namusa's mouth tightened, but she did not look away. "No man is strong enough for me," she said, almost calmly. "Not in heart. Not in spirit." Elias studied her a beat. The wind moved through the spruce tops like distant surf. "That's so," he said. "Yes," she said. "Until today." He gave a small, rough sound that was not quite laughter. "Until you met a falling tree." The muse's gaze sharpened. "Until I met the man who did not hesitate." Elias turned, shoulders broad beneath the flannel, and walked back to the saw, leaving her in the churned snow and the smell of sap. Namusa watched him go with a look that did not know how to be grateful. She had crossed an ocean and half a continent to reach this place, though she would never call it by the names men wrote on maps. Names were soft things. They changed. Hunger did not. They called the town Pine Hollow, though there was nothing hollow about it. The timber pressed close on every side. The river ran black under ice. The sky hung low and mean. She had arrived with a trader's wagon late in the fall, when the mud had not yet frozen, and every wheel had fought for its own life. She had climbed down with a single bundle and a face that refused pleading. The town's eyes had followed her like dogs. A woman alone. A woman with skin like dark bark against the snow. They did not ask how she came. They did not ask what she had lost. Men asked only what they could take, and women watched to see if she would break. Namusa did not break. She found work first in the cookhouse, scrubbing kettles, lifting iron lids, breathing smoke that bit her throat. She learned the taste of salt pork and weak coffee. She learned to keep her hands away from men's hands. She learned how winter made every sound honest dot in the camp. They measured worth by what a body could drag, cut, carry. Namusa was not built like these men, thick with muscle from axe work. But she had a straight back and a gaze that made some of them uneasy. When the foreman's wife fell sick, Namusa took over the wash. When a teamster's shirt split and he had no spare, Namusa stitched it with needle and stubbornness. When the camp doctor muttered that someone should keep the men from drinking themselves blind, Namusa stood by the whiskey barrel and said, "Enough," like she was born to command. Men laughed the first time. They did not laugh the second. Something in her voice made them remember their mothers, or their grief, or the way a whip sounded. Still, there was always a test. They tested her with stares, with jokes, with hands that brushed too close. Namusa tested them back. She did not shout. She did not plead. She simply held herself as if she would rather freeze than bow. Elias watched her from the edges, seeing more than most. He had been in these woods since he was 16, when his father died under a log that rolled wrong. Elias had cut and hauled and slept in damp wool ever since. His hands had thick scars, pale lines crossing his knuckles like old roads. He was not a talker. Men said he had a stone in his chest. The truth was simpler. Elias had learned what words were worth in winter. That day, after the near-fall, he saw Namusa in the cookhouse doorway, facing down two men who blocked her path for sport. They were both bigger than her. One had a smirk meant to show teeth. "Where are you going in such a hurry?" he said, leaning in. Namusa did not step back. "To my work," she replied. "Maybe you work for me," he said, grin widening. Namusa's eyes held his like iron tongs. "You cannot afford me." The other man chuckled. "Hear that? She's a queen." Namusa's voice stayed level. "Queens bleed, too. Do you want to find out how?" Their laughter faltered, not from fear of her hands, but from the calm behind her words. Elias stepped closer without haste. "Move," he said to them. One of the men frowned. "What's it to you, Ward?" Elias's gaze did not change. "Move," he repeated. The men shifted aside with sour looks. Pride made them want to fight, but winter made them remember the work ahead. They melted away like smoke. Namusa walked past Elias without thanks. Then she stopped. "You like ordering men," she said, almost accusing. "I like work getting done," Elias replied. Namusa studied him. "Why did you save me?" Elias wiped his hands on his trousers. "Because you were going to die." "You think I did not know that?" she asked. "I think you knew and didn't care," Elias said. Namusa's jaw flexed. "In my country, men died for their pride every day." Elias's eyes narrowed slightly. "This isn't your country." "No," she said. "That is why I am still alive." Something passed between them, then, thin as a blade, sharp as cold air. Namusa's gaze softened by a fraction, then hardened again, as if softness was a luxury she refused. She stepped closer, voice lower. "They tell stories about you," she said. Elias snorted. "They tell stories about everyone." "They say you do not drink," Namusa said. "I drink coffee," he said. "They say you do not touch women." She continued. Elias's shoulders tensed. "Who says that?" Namusa's mouth flickered, the hint of a smile. "Women." Elias exhaled, a white plume. "Women talk." Namusa's eyes did not leave his. Do you? Only when it matters, Elias said. Namusa nodded once, as if filing the answer away. Then speak when it matters, she said, and walked on. Elias watched her go, unsettled in a way the woods rarely managed. That night the camp sat under a sky full of stars that looked sharp enough to cut. The men ate beans and bread and salt pork, chewing in tired silence broken by crude jokes and coughing. USA served ladles of stew, her sleeves rolled, wrists strong. She moved like someone used to carrying more than weight. She carried memory. When the men were done, she scrubbed pots until her fingers wrinkled and red. Then she stepped out behind the cookhouse to breathe air that did not smell of grease. Elias was there, splitting kindling under a lantern. He swung the hatchet with economy, not wasting motion. The wood cracked clean. Sparks rose and died. Namusa leaned against the wall, arms folded. You work even after work, she said. Elias set the hatchet down. Keeps me warm. Namusa's breath smoked in the lantern light. In my home, warmth came from bodies, she said softly. Elias looked up, alert. The camp behind them hummed with men and fatigue. Namusa added, quickly, as if correcting herself. From family. From fire. From cattle close at night. Elias nodded once, accepting the correction without comment. Namusa's eyes moved over him, taking inventory like a careful trader. You are not afraid of me, she said. Elias shrugged. I'm afraid of plenty. Of what? Namusa asked. Elias stared at the kindling pile as if the answer lived between its splits. Of something heavy falling the wrong way, he said. Namusa's gaze held him. You have seen death. I've carried it, Elias replied. A long silence settled, filled with distant laughter and the creak of trees and wind. Namusa spoke again, quieter. In the wagon that brought me here, she said, a man tried to bargain for me like I was cloth. Elias's hand tightened on a split stick. Namusa continued, voice steady. He said I would learn. He said the cold would teach me obedience. Elias looked at her, eyes hard now. Did it? Namusa's mouth turned cold. The cold teaches only one thing, she said. Endure. Elias nodded. That's true. Namusa stepped closer to the lantern's edge. The light warmed the planes of her face, showed the tiredness under her eyes, the small scars at her hairline that spoke of older days. I do not want pity, she said. Elias's voice was low. Good. I don't have much to give. Namusa's gaze sharpened, but there was something like approval in it. Then give me truth, she said. Why did you not hesitate today? Elias breathed in, smelling resin and smoke. Because you stood like you wanted to be hit, he said. And I know what that looks like. Namusa's eyes widened a fraction. You have wanted to be hit, she said. Not as a question. Elias's jaw tightened. After my father died, I tried to work myself into the ground, he said. Figured if the woods took me, it would be fair. Namusa listened without blinking. Elias went on, voice rough. But the woods don't care about fair. They just take. Namusa's shoulders lowered slightly, as if a cord inside her loosened. In my land, she said, men also take. They took my father. They took my brother. They took the place where I could speak my language without fear. Elias held still, lantern light catching on his beard. Why did you come here? He asked. Namusa's laugh was small and sharp. Because there was nowhere else, she said. Because a ship does not ask if your heart is ready. It only leaves. Elias's eyes softened, barely. And now? Namusa lifted her chin. Now I build something, she said. Even if the timber tries to crush me. Elias's gaze went past her to the black tree line. "The timber always tries," he said. Namusa looked back at him, eyes steady as river ice. "Then I will try harder," she said. Elias picked up the hatchet again, but he did not swing. "You don't have to prove yourself to these men," he said. Namusa's voice turned steel. "I am not proving," she said. "I am surviving." Elias nodded slowly. "Survival's a lonely kind of proof." Namusa's eyes held his. "So is pride," she said. In the distance, a wolf called once, thin and far. The camp dogs answered, nervous. Namusa shivered, but not from cold. She looked toward the sound, then back to Elias. "In my country we listened for lions," she said. Elias's mouth twitched. "Here it's wolves." "And men." Namusa's gaze sharpened at that last word. Elias met it without flinching. "You think you can stand alone against all of them," he said. Namusa's voice was quiet. "I have done worse," she replied. Elias took a step closer, not touching her, but making the space between them smaller. His presence was like a wall, solid and unspoken. Namusa's breath caught. Just once. Elias spoke softly, and his words came out like heat in the cold. "No man is strong enough for you," he said, repeating her claim and not mocking it now. Namusa's eyes did not waver. "Yes," she said. Elias's gaze dropped to her hands, raw from work, then back to her face. "Strength isn't only winning," he said. "Sometimes it's letting someone stand beside you." Namusa's throat moved as she swallowed. "Beside," she repeated, as if tasting the word. Elias nodded. "Not in front," he said. "Not behind, beside." Namusa stared at him, and for the first time since she arrived in Pine Hollow, her eyes looked tired in a way she could not hide. Then footsteps crunched in the snow. A man's voice called out, thick with drink. "Hey, Ward! Foreman wants you." Something about the river road. Elias turned his head, still not stepping away from Namusa. "Coming," he called back. The messenger lurched off, laughing to himself. Elias looked at Namusa again. "Stay away from falling trees," he said. Namusa's mouth tightened, but her eyes softened, just enough. "And you," she said. "Do not throw yourself like that again." Elias's brow lifted. "Why not?" Namusa's voice dropped, almost a whisper. "Because I do not know what to do with a man who does not hesitate," she said. Elias held her gaze, and the lantern hissed between them. "Learn," he said, and then he turned and walked into the snow toward whatever trouble waited on the river road. The river road was a narrow scar between black trees. Snow packed hard underfoot, churned by sled runners and horses. Lanterns bobbed ahead like small moons. Elias's breath burned in his lungs as he lengthened his stride. He found the foreman near the bend, where the road dipped toward the frozen river. Two sleds sat jackknifed across the track, one tilted, one broken. A third team waited, snorting and stamping in the cold. "What happened?" Elias asked. The foreman jabbed a thumb at the broken sled. Axle snapped. Load slid. "We're blocked till it's cleared." Elias eyed the scene. Logs lay scattered, one half off the road, half hanging above the riverbank. Another rested at a bad angle, like it wanted to roll. "Anyone under it?" he asked. "No," the foreman said. "Luck, that. But if we don't move it before dark, we lose time tomorrow." Elias stepped closer to the tilted log, watching how it leaned. He pictured weight and gravity the way other men pictured cards. The river below whispered under ice. "We need 3 men with peavies on this side," he said. 2 with chains there. Nobody stands downhill. "Ward thinks he runs the camp," someone muttered behind him. Elias ignored it. "We shift that one first," he added, pointing. "Then we can straighten the sled enough to unload it safe." The foreman grunted. You heard him, he said. Move. Men took positions. Iron peavy hooks bit wood. Chains clinked. The horses tossed their heads, sensing tension. Elias set his shoulder, gloved hands tight on the peavy handle. On my count, he said. 1, 2, 3. Muscles bunched. The log resisted, then grudgingly rolled back toward the road, snow spraying from beneath. The men grunted. Boots digging in. Again, Elias said. They pushed until the log settled with a heavy thump in a safer groove. The worst of the danger passed like a breath. The foreman clapped Elias's shoulder. You got a nose for trouble, he said, and for getting out of it. Elias's chest rose and fell, breath smoking. Trouble smells the same everywhere, he said. They worked until their backs ached, and the last log lay secured. Night dropped fully, thick and sharp. Lantern light cut small circles in the dark dot. By the time Elias trudged back toward camp, his legs felt like wood. The wind had picked up, bringing fine snow that stung his face. The cookhouse windows glowed yellow dot inside. The men had already eaten. The clatter of tin plates had softened to the hum of cards and low talk. Elias stepped in, heat washing over him, the smell of stew heavy in the air. Namusa stood by the stove, ladling leftovers into a smaller pot. Her shawl was off, sleeves rolled. Her skin gleamed slightly with steam. She looked up when he entered. You did not freeze, she said. Not tonight, Elias replied. She reached for a bowl. Sit, she said. You will eat. Elias hesitated. I can wait till morning. Namusa's eyes sharpened. Sit, she repeated, or you insult the cook. He sat. She placed the bowl before him, thick stew and a hunk of bread. He tasted the first spoonful, heat spreading through his chest. It's good, he said. Namusa gave a short nod. You say that like it is a surprise. Everything warm is a surprise in January, he replied. One corner of her mouth twitched, almost a smile. Then you should say thank you, she said. He met her gaze. Thank you. Her eyes held his a heartbeat longer than needed, then moved on. She went back to her chores, but she circled closer than before, like a bird testing a new branch. Across the room, the men watched Dot. They always watched. Talk shifted when she passed. Some eyes slid away, some lingered. A few carried grudges that had nothing to do with her and everything to do with the color of her skin and the fact that she refused to be small. Later, when the men drifted to bunks, Elias remained by the stove, hands out to the heat. His fingers tingled as feeling returned. Namusa stacked plates, her movements slow now. Tiredness had weight. It bent everyone eventually. You worked on the river road, she said. He nodded. Sled broke. Could have been worse. In my home, she said. We never walked so close to water at night. Spirit stories. Elias's brow furrowed. You believe in those? She considered. I believe water takes what it wants, she said. Stories explain the rest. Elias's eyes softened. Water here does the same, he replied. Just colder. She tilted her head. Do you fear it? Only when I forget it's there, he said. Namusa studied him, then reached for a small tin cup. She poured weak coffee, dark as the river beyond the walls, and handed it to him. You fight the cold with this, she said. He took it, their fingers brushing briefly. His hand dwarfed hers, calloused and scarred, but her grip was firm, not tentative. Thank you, he said again. She looked at his hand. Your knuckles, she said. They have many stories, mostly about axes and stubborn wood, he replied. And men? She asked. A few, he said. Namusa's gaze climbed back to his face. Have you ever hit a man for a woman? She asked. Elias's jaw tightened. Memories rose unwanted. Once, he said. Long time ago. Did she ask you? Namusa said. No, he said. Then why? Elias stared into his coffee. Because he wouldn't stop, he said. Nam USA watched him, eyes narrowing. And did you win? Elias smiled without humor. I lost a tooth, he said. But he stopped. Namusa's shoulders eased slightly. Then you won enough, she said. From outside, a shout cut through the night. Another followed, sharper. It wasn't the ordinary rough laughter of men. It carried urgency. Elias set the cup down and crossed to the door. Cold slammed into him when he opened it. He stepped out, boots crunching. Down by the bunkhouse. A knot of men had formed. As he approached, he saw the center of the circle. One of the younger loggers, red-faced and swaying, had a hand clamped around Namusa's wrist. She stood straight, eyes hard, but her other hand was full of spilled laundry, shirts and socks gone to the snow. I said, the young man slurred, I'm talking to you. You are very loud, Namusa said. That is not the same as speaking. A couple of men laughed uneasily. The young logger tightened his grip. Think you're better than us? Walking around like a queen? Namusa's jaw clenched. Let go, she said. You hurt me. He sneered. You think you're too good for white men? You should be grateful Elias's hand closed around the man's wrist. Let her go, Elias said. His voice was low, but it carried. The young logger turned, irritation flashing to something sharper. Back off, Ward, he snapped. This is between me and... Elias twisted his grip. Pain flared across the man's face. Fingers sprang open. Namusa yanked her arm back, stumbling a step. Fabric spilled further into the snow. Elias released the man's wrist. It's between you and your bottle, Elias said. Go sleep it off. The young logger rubbed his wrist, face flushing darker. Humiliation burned hotter than the cold. You think you can talk to me like that? He spat. You ain't foreman. I'm the one in front of you, Elias said. The air tightened. Men shifted their weight, forming an unspoken ring. Namusa stood just outside it now, her burden at her feet. She cradled her wrist, red marks visible even in the dim. The young logger's eyes flicked to her, then back to Elias. What? She's yours. He sneered. You keeping her for yourself, Ward? A murmur ran through the men. Elias's jaw flexed. She's not anyone's, he said. Nam you say single quotes, as eyes flashed at that. Something like gratitude mixed with anger. The young man stepped closer, chest puffed. Then stay out of it, he said. You can't save every stray the boss brings in. Elias's hand curled into a fist. He had seen this road before, the one that ran straight toward violence, and never seemed to end. He could walk away. He knew how. He did not. She's a worker in this camp like you, he said. You lay hands on her again, you answer to me. The young logger snorted. You and what strength? He taunted. You think being quiet makes you dangerous? A few men snickered. Elias stepped closer. The space between them shrunk to the width of a breath. I think knowing when to stop makes me dangerous. Elias said. The young man swung. He moved faster than sense, fist aimed at Elias's jaw. Elias slipped his head to the side, the fist grazing his cheek. Pain flared hot. Then Elias stepped in, driving his own fist into the man's ribs. Breath whooshed out. The young logger stumbled, surprise more than hurt in his eyes. He swung again, wilder. Elias blocked with his forearm, pain ringing up the bone, and answered with a short, brutal hook to the stomach. The young man folded, knees hitting snow. Elias stood over him, chest heaving. Enough, he said. The logger coughed, spit wet on the snow. He glared up, pride raw and wounded. This isn't over, he rasped. Double quotes, yes, Elias said. It is. The foreman's voice cut in then sharp. What's this? He shouldered through the circle, gaze taking in the scene. The young man on his knees, Elias standing, Namusa with her marked wrist. I'll tell you what it is, one of the older men said quickly. Kid got drunk, grabbed the girl. Ward stopped it. The foreman's mouth flattened. He looked at Namusa. That true? Namusa lifted her chin. Yes, she said. He would not let go. The foreman shot the young logger a withering stare. You lay drunk hands on anyone in my camp again, he said. I'll send you packing before sunup. Understand? The young man muttered something. The foreman's eyes hardened. Understand? Yes, the logger forced out. The foreman jerked his head. Get up. Get out of my sight. The young man staggered away, clutching his side, hate flickering in his eyes like a small, dangerous flame. The men drifted back toward the bunkhouse, voices low. The circle dissolved. Elias bent to pick up one of the shirts from the snow. He shook it, handed it to Namusa. His cheek already darkened where the punch had grazed him. Namusa looked at the bruise forming, then at her wrist. You bleed for me, she said quietly. Elias snorted, a humorless sound. Barely, he said. She gathered the rest of the clothes, cradling them against her. Her hands trembled slightly now that the danger passed. You should not have done that, she said. Should have let him keep hold of you? Eliza asked. You should not have put yourself between us, she said. Now he will not forget. Good, Elias said. He shouldn't. Namusa's eyes searched his face. You think this is a story that ends with one punch? She asked. You think hatred listens to one warning? Elias's shoulders sagged a fraction. No, he said. I know it doesn't. She stepped closer. The lamplight from the bunkhouse spilled over them, catching the fine snow in her hair. In my life, she said, men have fought over me like I am land to claim. Her voice had iron beneath it. I do not want that, she continued. I do not want to be the reason men throw fists. I want to be the reason they stand up straighter. Elias absorbed her words. You didn't ask him to grab you, he said. You didn't ask me to step in. Namusa's throat moved as she swallowed. No, she said. But now I am caught between two prides. His wounded ears awakened. Elias exhaled, breath rising white. I didn't fight for pride, he said. I fought because he hurt you. Namusa stared at him, eyes deep in the half-dark. You cannot protect me from all of them, she said. I know, Elias said. Silence settled. Wind slid between the buildings, singing low. Namusa shifted the weight of the laundry. In my home, she said softly, there was a man who said no one was strong enough for me. Not in strength of arms, not in patience. Elias's brows drew together. What happened to him? He is in the ground, she replied. Like my father, like my brother, like the men who thought strength was shouting. Elias watched her, heartbeat heavy. And you? He asked. What do you think now? Namusa lifted her marked wrist as if showing evidence. I think strength is not how hard you hit, she said. It is how you stand when everything tells you to kneel. Her eyes flicked to his bruise. And sometimes, she added, it is how many times you get back up. A thin smile touched Elias's lips. Then I'm strong enough to keep working, he said. You are strong enough to be foolish, she countered. They stood facing each other, breath mingling in the cold. From the bunkhouse came the muffled sound of singing, off-key and tired. Men tried to forget days with noise. Namusa looked toward the sound, then back at Elias. Will you always step in? She asked. If I'm there, he said. She studied him. And if one day you are not? Alias's gaze did not shift. "Then you'll still be you," he said. "And that's worth something." Namusa held his eyes, and in that look was a lifetime of being told she was too much. Too proud, too unyielding. She inhaled, chest rising. "No man is strong enough for me," she said again, but this time the words came quieter, less like a boast and more like a question thrown at the night. Elias answered without flinching. "Maybe strength isn't about being enough alone," he said. "Maybe it's about not breaking when you lean." Namusa's lips parted, surprised by the image. "Lean," she repeated. "You think I know how to do that?" "You could learn," he said. Her eyes darkened. "On who?" she asked. Elias's cheeks, already reddened by cold and the punch, warmed further. "On someone who doesn't want to own you," he said. "Just stand beside you." Namusa swallowed. The laundry in her arms felt suddenly heavier. "You believe such men exist?" she asked. He held her gaze. "I'm trying to," he said. Snow began to fall harder then, filling the spaces between their words. Namusa shifted the clothes against her chest. Her wrist ached. His cheek throbbed. The night pressed in. "Tomorrow," she said. Voice steadier, "you will work and I will cook. And the young one will glare." "Probably," Elias said. "We will pretend nothing happened," she said. Elias's jaw set. "We won't pretend," he replied. "We'll remember." Namusa nodded once, slowly. "Good," she said, "because I do not forget those who stand between me and harm." It is a short list. She turned then, heading toward the wash-house, her back straight. The lantern light caught her just enough to show the faint tremor in her shoulders. Elias watched her go, until the dark wrapped around her shape. His cheek pulsed with each heartbeat. He welcomed the pain. It grounded him more than the frozen earth underfoot. Above, the stars glittered indifferent. Elias pushed his hands into his pockets and walked back toward the bunkhouse doors. Behind him, the snow quietly covered the prints where a man had knelt and another had stood. Morning came with a wind that cut sideways. It found every seam in the bunkhouse, walls. It lifted loose snow and threw it into faces like grit. The camp woke to the dull groan of men rising, boots thumping, lungs coughing out last night's smoke. Elias dressed in the half-dark, pulling on wool that still held yesterday's sweat. His cheek was a tender bruise. He touched it once, then stopped, as if acknowledging pain gave it power. Out by the woodpile, he chopped kindling until his shoulders warmed. Axe head bit clean. Chips flew. The work steadied him. Across the yard, Namusa crossed from the wash-house to the cook-house with a pail balanced in both hands. Her wrist was wrapped in a strip of cloth. She did not hide it. She carried it like a fact. Some men stared. Most looked away. The young logger from last night, Caleb, Elias remembered, stood near the bunkhouse steps, jaw clenched, watching her pass. His ribs must have ached. Pride ached worse. He did not move. He did not speak, but his eyes followed Elias like a warning. Elias ignored him. He had learned long ago that a man could live beside a threat if he refused to feed it. The foreman called for teams. Horses were hitched. Sled runners squealed on hard snow. Men shouldered axes and peavies and went back into the timber like ants returning to a wound. Namusa stayed behind with the cookhouse and the wash, the endless cycle of feeding and cleaning that kept the camp alive. Elias worked with his saw partner, a thick-necked man named Harlan, who talked too much when cold made him honest. "You shouldn't have done it," Harlan said as they set the crosscut into a pine. Elias leaned forward, hands on the handles. "Done what?" "You know what?" Harlan muttered. "Putting your fists into Caleb like that." Kids got a long memory and a shorter temper. Elias pulled the saw, teeth singing. He grabbed her. Harlan pushed, breath puffing. He was drunk. Then he should drink smarter, Elias said. Harlan spat. It's not about right, he said. It's about what comes next. Elias kept the rhythm. Pull, push. The saw bit deeper. Resin smell rose sharp. What comes next? Elias asked. Harlan's eyes flicked to the dark woods, as if trouble could be hiding behind any trunk. Men don't like being told no, he said. And they like it even less from someone who ain't one of them. She's working, Elias said. She's not begging. Harlan snorted. That's part of it. She don't bow. Makes them feel small. Elias said nothing. The tree shuddered as the cut deepened. Harlan lowered his voice. You got no wife, Ward, he said. No family here. No one to catch you if you fall. Elias's jaw tightened. You offering to catch me? He asked. Harlan gave a humorless laugh. I'm saying be careful, he replied. Sometimes the woods ain't the only thing that falls on a man. The pine creaked, warning. Elias raised a hand. Hold. They stepped back as the tree went, falling true this time, clean and planned. It hit the snow with a heavy, satisfied thump. Harlan stared at the trunk. You hear what I'm saying? He asked. Elias wiped his brow with his sleeve. Frost formed instantly, where sweat met air. I hear, he said. That evening, when the teams returned, the camp carried a different weight. It wasn't just fatigue. It was eyes measuring. Men talking low. The kind of quiet that came before trouble chose a corner and grew. Namusa stood at the cookhouse door as they filed in. She served stew with the same steady hands. But Elias noticed she kept her back to the wall more often. Not fear, awareness. Caleb sat at a table with two other men, laughing too loudly. Elias ate at the end of the room, not alone, but not among friends. He listened more than he spoke. After supper, the men drifted toward cards. Whiskey came out in small amounts, hidden from the foreman's wife. The air thickened with smoke and bravado. Namusa carried dishes to the wash basin, her wrapped wrist visible each time she reached. Caleb watched. Elias watched back. At one point, Caleb rose and wandered toward the doorway as if he needed air. His path brought him close to Namusa. He did not touch her. He only leaned in as she passed with a pot. Careful, he murmured, loud enough for her and a few others. Slippery ground. Namusa did not stop. Your concern is new, she said, voice flat. Caleb smiled without warmth. Just learning manners, he replied. Namusa set the pot down and faced him. The room seemed to lean in. Manners are what you do when no one is watching, she said. Caleb's eyes narrowed. Then you should keep watching, he said softly. It might keep you safe. Elias stood up. Caleb glanced toward him, grin widening. Oh, he said, mock surprise. He's here. Elias walked over slow. He stopped close enough that Caleb had to tip his head back slightly to keep eye contact. Say what you mean, Elias said. Caleb's smile stayed. I mean she should mind her place, he said. And you should mind yours. Namusa's face was carved from stone. My place is where I put my feet, she said. Caleb's gaze cut to her wrist. Not where someone throws you, he said. Elias's fist clenched. He forced it open. Go sit down, Elias said, voice quiet. Caleb leaned in, breath smelling of cheap whiskey. You hit me again, he whispered, and I'll make sure you regret it. Not with fists. Elias stared at him, seeing the shape of the threat. You talking knives? He asked. Caleb's grin flickered. I'm talking accidents, he said. Logs roll. Ice breaks. Men fall. Namusa's eyes widened a fraction, then hardened. Elias nodded slowly, as if filing the words away like a debt. "Then watch your own step," he said. Caleb's smile returned. "Always do," he replied, and walked back to his table, laughing again as if nothing had happened. Namusa stood very still. Elias looked at her. "You all right?" Namusa's voice was low. "He is poison," she said. "Yes," Elias replied. Namusa met his eyes. "And you just drank it," she said. Elias exhaled. "I didn't start this," he said. Namusa's gaze did not soften. "No," she said. "But you made it yours." He held her look. "Would you rather I let him be?" he asked. Namusa's jaw flexed. "I would rather you live," she said. Elias's chest tightened at the word. Live. Like it was a choice. He nodded once. "Then we'll be smart," he said. Namusa's eyes searched his face. "Are you smart?" she asked. Elias gave a small shrug. "I'm still here," he said. Namusa turned back to her work, but her shoulders were tight, like someone bracing for a blow that might come from any direction. That night, Elias woke to a sound that did not belong. Not the usual snore. Not the cough. Not the wind, a soft scrape. Wood on wood. A shift in weight. His eyes opened into darkness. The bunkhouse air was cold, thick with men's breath. Moonlight seeped through cracks. Elias lay still, listening. Another scrape. Closer to the door. He sat up silently, swinging his feet to the floor. He reached under his bunk and closed his hand around the handle of his camp knife. Not a weapon, meant for fights, but a tool, sharp and honest. A shadow moved near the doorway. Someone easing out, trying not to wake the room. Elias rose and followed, boots in his hands, stepping in stocking feet. He slipped outside. The cold struck like a slap. Stars glittered. The yard lay pale under moonlight. The shadow moved toward the wash house. Elias stayed behind the woodpile. Breath held, watching. Caleb. He recognized the gait. The way the shoulders hunched as if hiding the face. Caleb moved with purpose, not drunken stumble. In his hand, something long and dark, maybe a PV handle, maybe a length of iron. Elias's blood ran cold. Caleb reached the wash-house door. He paused, listening. Then he tried the latch. It opened. Elias moved. He crossed the yard in a rush, boots forgotten, knife still at his side but not raised. Snow hissed under his socks. He reached the wash-house just as Caleb slipped inside. Elias pushed the door open hard. Inside, the air smelled of damp cloth and ash. Moonlight from a small window showed rough benches, tubs, stacked laundry. A lantern sat unlit. Caleb turned, startled. "What the hell?" he began. Elias saw it then. Namusa was there, crouched near a tub, awakened by the sound. Her eyes were wide, her hand on the edge as if ready to stand or strike. She wore a wool wrap around her shoulders, hair loose, breath fast. Caleb's grip tightened on the iron bar he held. Elias stepped between them, broad shoulders filling the space. Caleb's face twisted. "You spy on me now?" he hissed. Elias's voice was low. "What were you going to do?" he asked. Caleb's eyes flicked to Namusa, then back. "Teach her manners," he said, and the words were too calm, too practiced. Namusa's voice cut in, steady despite her breathing. "You came to hurt me," she said. Caleb sneered. "You think you can talk to men like you do," he said. "Think you can shame us and walk away." Namusa rose slowly, staying behind Elias. Her wrapped wrist was visible. Her other hand reached for something on the bench, a wooden paddle used for beating clothes. Elias did not look back. He felt her behind him, like heat. Caleb lifted the bar. "Move," he said to Elias. "This ain't your business." Elias's jaw clenched. "It became my business when you walked in here," he said. Caleb's eyes glittered in the moonlight. "You want to be her hero," he said. "Go ahead, be. Heroes get buried." Elias stepped closer, hands open. Caleb swung the bar. Elias ducked, the iron whooshing over his head, slamming into a beam with a dull thud. Wood splintered. Elias drove forward, wrapping both arms around Caleb's waist and slamming him back into the tubs. Water sloshed, icy and foul, spilling onto the floor. Caleb grunted, then drove an elbow into Elias's side. Pain flared. Elias tightened his grip, forcing Caleb off balance. Namusa moved. She did not scream. She did not freeze. She stepped in from the side and brought the wooden paddle down hard on Caleb's forearm. The sound was a sharp crack. Caleb howled, bar slipping from numbed fingers. It hit the floor with a metallic clang. Elias released him and shoved him back. Caleb stumbled, clutching his arm, eyes wild. Namusa raised the paddle again, stance steady, like she had held spears in another life. "You will not touch me," she said, voice low and deadly. "Not here. Not ever." Caleb spat onto the floor, saliva dark. "You think this ends it?" he snarled. Elias reached down and picked up the iron bar. He held it loosely, not threatening, but ready. "It ends tonight," Elias said. "You leave this building. You leave this camp. You don't come back." Caleb's breath steamed, eyes darting. He looked from Elias to Namusa, seeing two kinds of strength, both unyielding. He backed toward the door, clutching his arm. "Foreman hears about this," he hissed. "Good," Elias said. "He should." Caleb's gaze burned into Namusa. "You brought trouble," he said. Namusa's voice did not waver. "You are trouble," she replied. Caleb turned and shoved out the door into the night. Elias waited until the crunch of his footsteps faded. Then Elias set the bar down and turned toward Namusa. She still held the paddle, knuckles white. Her breathing slowed, but her eyes stayed bright, fierce. Not tears, fire. Elias looked at the bruise on her wrist, at the way her shoulders shook slightly now that the danger had passed. "You shouldn't be in here alone at night," he said quietly. Namusa's chin lifted. "This is where I work," she replied. "I will not be chased from my work like a frightened animal." Elias nodded. "I know," he said. "But he's not finished." Namusa's mouth tightened. "Neither am I," she said. Elias stepped closer, careful. "You did good," he said, nodding at the paddle. Nam you say single quotes as eyes narrowed. "I did what I had to," she said. Elias's gaze held hers. "That's what good is," he replied. Namusa's grip loosened slightly. She looked down at the paddle, then set it on the bench with deliberate care, as if placing a weapon back into a life that demanded it. Her voice dropped. "You followed him," she said. "I heard him," Elias replied. Namusa studied him. "You came fast," she said. Elias's throat tightened. "I didn't want to be too late," he said. A silence stretched, thick and close. Namusa's eyes flicked over his face, then down to his side where Caleb's elbow had landed. "Are you hurt?" she asked. "Just a bruise," Elias said. Namusa took a step closer before she seemed to realize she was doing it. Her hand hovered near his ribs, not touching, as if touch was still a foreign language between them. Then she pulled her hand back, swallowing. "You cannot keep doing this," she said, voice strained. "He will bring others, or he will wait." Elias's gaze was steady. "Then we tell the foreman," he said. Namusa's laugh was bitter. "The foreman will protect his camp," she said. "Not me. Not you. He will choose the least trouble." Elias's jaw tightened. He knew that truth. He had seen it before. Namusa met his eyes. You think your fists can change men's hearts, she said. But hatred does not bleed out. Elias breathed in the damp air. No, he said. But it can be boxed in. Namusa's eyes softened a fraction, then hardened again. What if it boxes you in? She whispered. Elias stepped closer still, stopping at the edge of her space. Then I'll stand, he said. Namusa's throat moved. She looked at him like she was seeing not a lumberjack, not a white man in flannel, but a choice, dangerous, and strange dot in the weak moonlight. Her face looked younger and older at once. No man is strong enough for me, she said, almost to herself. Elias answered softly. You were strong enough tonight, he said. Namusa's eyes lifted, fierce. Not alone, she replied. Elias nodded. No, he said. Not alone. Outside the wind shifted. The camp slept on, unaware how close the night had come to something darker. Namusa looked toward the door Caleb had fled through, then back at Elias. Tomorrow, she said, voice steadying. We speak to the foreman. We speak loud. Elias nodded. Tomorrow, he agreed. Nam USA drew her shawl tighter. And if the foreman chooses the least trouble? She asked. Elias's gaze did not move. Then we make trouble expensive, he said. Namusa stared at him, and a slow, grim smile touched her mouth, not sweet, not gentle, but honest. Good, she said, because I have paid too much already. Elias picked up the lantern, struck a match, and lit it. The flame bloomed, pushing back the dark. Light filled the wash-house, catching on water, on rough boards, on her wrapped wrist, on his bruised cheek. Nam USA watched the flame. Fire is the only thing that does not care who you are, she said quietly. Elias held the lantern between them. Fire cares, he replied. It just doesn't judge. Namusa's eyes met his, and in them was exhaustion and resolve, and something else that neither of them named. They stepped out into the cold together, lantern light swinging, throwing their shadows long across the snow as they walked toward the sleeping camp. If you enjoyed, please subscribe and comment what country you're watching from. See you in the next one.